Hi all, I have another amazing game of Leela Chess to show you. This is against Crafty. Now Crafty craftily drew in the previous encounter against Leela in this tournament. Can Leela do better in this game? D4 from Leela. So this is the ChessCom Computer Championship Rapid Rumble, 15 minutes with a 5-second increment. Stage 1. So Crafty at the bottom of the tournament. Leela surely can try and get a good advantage from the opening. In fact, Crafty plays into the Benoni now, e6, knight c3, but very unusually plays bishop d6. More usual if black wanted a modern Benoni, which was used by the likes of Mikhail Tal, then this would have been the way to do that. Fianchetto the bishop. Yeah, Tal used it with great success, and the modern Benoni peaked in interest in 1960. It seems the year that Tal won the World Championship. So he was a great exponent of the modern Benoni. But bishop d6, this isn't even Snake-Benoni territory. In Snake-Benoni, e takes, c takes, c takes, bishop d6 with ideas of bishop c7 to a5 later is a fun system, novel, has some novelty value. But this immediately, okay, it doesn't lose outright. D takes hits the bishop, but it can be protected with d takes. So it doesn't lose outright, but it is very odd indeed. Now after e4, we have actually bishop e5 being played. If black castled, f4 is dangerous. For example, e takes e5, this position is bishop e2, and white is actually winning a piece, for example like this. Yeah, it's quite problematic, black's configuration here. And if we look at this again with say bishop c7, then squishing becomes possible with e5, d6. This isn't the sort of opening you want against Leela Chess, particularly because actually, as an example, this could be a massive hack attack on the cards. So yeah, it seems a little bit unfortunate, this whole opening choice by Crafty. Bishop e5 does have something going for it, moving the piece again to threaten structural damage. Now, Leela actually protected that, avoiding any structural damage. Is it that bad if it did happen, you might ask? Not necessarily, actually. This kind of scenario is still in white's favour, technically. But anyway, knight ge2 is probably the best. E takes, d6. Now f4, forcing that bishop to exchange off. Now this bishop is hemmed in for the moment, and black has got that e4 square under control for the moment, but it's challenged. Black's whole control over that central square is challenged. Check. Now things get a bit tricky here. King f2 is played. On king f1, it seems queen d7 is good. I mean, reasonable for black. This scenario is reasonable for black. But king f2 throws in the immediate threat of rook e1 now. So not interfering with the rook. So it's kind of helped this rook. And I think it's pointless to play knight g4 check here. It turns out here, if knight g4 check, king g3 is actually the strongest. You might not think so because of knight e3, and you might think, hold on a sec. The thing is, in this position, queen e2, and on bishop takes d3, queen takes, the knight's actually stranded. Yeah, the knight's actually completely stranded here. So that's why it turns out that in this position, after knight g4 check, king g3 is the very strongest, stronger than even king f3. But both of them promise white an advantage. We have actually bishop takes, queen takes, now knight a6. Now here, if rook e1 here, then knight g4 check works a treat to at least secure a draw. So king f1, because otherwise if the king steps away from the rook, bang. And this is embarrassment on the first rank. And if the king has to go there, then Crafty will have its evil way to draw craftily. But Leela plays queen h3, keeping an eye on this naughty knight. We have castling, rook e1, queen d8, and now bishop d2. Already the position is so strong that even g4 comes on the radar to my own Stockfish 9. This position, for example, is very, very dangerous for black. this scenario, because white's got good attacking prospects here. But anyway, bishop d2, h6. You might think h6 is really asking for it. Why is Crafty playing like a total troll in this game, moving a piece twice, now asking for g4, g5 it seems. Why? Well, if we look at rook e8, g4 here is pretty good anyway. This is a very, very nice scenario. After queen f5, that keeps control of this pesky knight over here. Kick that one back, and then knight e4, and then there's things like bishop c3, and this could be a total disaster for black. So maybe Crafty did actually check out some of this stuff coming its way and decided to play h6 of all moves. So that's some disaster scenarios. So yeah, maybe by elimination h6. It just seems entirely provocative from black so far. On queen b6 instead, then this kind of scenario is still quite nice for white. In fact, there's an issue here with the d6 pawn, for example. This way of playing things is pretty good. This leads to an advantage for white with knight f7, for example. So yeah, it's a grim type of position here, but h6 does seem really odd. So rook e3, not even playing g4 now. This might actually be the strongest way to approach this. It's a frontal, attack, pinning that pawn to threaten things like queen takes h6 for, rook g3 here. Rook e8, rook g3, queen c8. Now there's a trick here. If Crafty was playing a human opponent, then maybe they would play queen takes h6, allowing knight g4 check, winning the exchange. Even this variation, by the way, apparently is only technically equal. That's how bad Crafty's position is. But Leela avoids that little trap and plays f5. Rook e5. On king h7 here, there's a nasty variation which I'll show you in the main line of the game, not to spoil things. In fact, I don't want to spoil the beauty of this move here after rook e5. Have a look at the pinned comment of this video if you want all the variation notes at every stage. But rook e5, to tell the story here, what does white play in this position if I give you 5 seconds to pause the video? White's play. Okay, bang, rook takes g7 check, or boom, as becoming more popular, it seems, the term boom. King takes. Now in here, not queen takes h6, this is disaster. After king g8, it's disaster. What is white doing? If white takes that, bang, rook takes f5, wins the queen. No, the idea actually is bishop takes h6, check. Now king h8 was played. On king g8, then there's check and mate. So king h8, but now bishop f4 check. And what has white done here? What has Leela done? It's rook and knight and queen. Rook, knight, queen. Isn't black a piece up? How weird, you might think. Count the pawns. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's only 2 pawns up. But this is so strong, g4. It's so strong. The queen supports f5. Now g5 is on the way. Anytime this knight moves, there's knight e4, and that's a gigantic knight. White's also got this gigantic past central pawn. Let's see what happens. Knight e4. Knight e8 allows knight e4 now, and that stops the immediate blockade as well. Knight d6, knight b4, and we have rook d1, queen d8, and now queen h6, queen d7, d6, and look how helpless black is in this position. Crafty tries f6 here, just giving up the c5 pawn. This is just extremely dangerous looking with things like knight g5 on the cards, or maybe even kicking this knight and then rook d3 to h3. There's all sorts of terrible scenarios this rook could potentially switch in if the knight's not covering d3, even if it gets to d4. So f6 was played, giving up this other pawn, and this allows a simplification to a winning endgame, actually, basically by force. After queen g7, we actually transition to a totally winning endgame position. Let's have a look at the good stuff here before the queens come off. Instead of f6, so say knight c2, rook d3. This is just a beauty to behold, I believe, with rook h3, this kind of thing. And we're threatening queen h8 and stuff. This could be really nasty. That's the good stuff anyway. Crafty didn't allow that to happen. So instead, yeah, Crafty settled for a terrible, maybe with dignity, to lose this with dignity, with this losing endgame instead. So d7, knight c6. There's no stopping that pawn. So here on knight c7, d8, queen. Okay, so we have actually knight c6, d8, rook takes, check, king g8, knight e4, coming for that f6 pawn. And yeah, this is just a technique win here. This is absolutely technique win. Look at the scenario. It's 3 pawns down for Crafty. Yeah, it's just a disaster. Rook f7, white takes, and this position, yep, it's just technique for Leela. It's fairly straightforward to start pushing these pawns. The king's not going anywhere on the king side, so yeah, push the pawns, push the pawns. Okay, the knight comes back, g5, b7. Yeah, a lot of things win here clearly. Game carrying on a bit. Yeah, that knight was desperately given up. There's no stalemate tricks. So queen g7 is checkmate. So yeah, Crafty really was a troll in the opening in this game and deserved to be crushed. I thought it was going to be an instructive game. I did watch part of this on live stream, and yes, indeed it was instructive. So fantastic piece sacrifice there with that pawn wedge, you know, with a rook potentially coming to h3. Crafty just cashed out to a lost end game, basically. Multiple pawns down. Okay, I hope you enjoyed that one. Comments, questions, likes, shares appreciated. Thanks very much.